Shawn Lauzon. So great to have you back on my podcast. How are you today, my
Hey,
friend?
it's great to be back. I am doing fantastic. I'm at my parents' place right now in rural Wisconsin, and I'm very happy that right now upstairs it's warm. It's
Yeah.
been a lot of cold here recently,
Yeah.
but it's
Yeah.
really nice today.
I'm on the East Coast and I'm in North Carolina right now in Charlotte on a lake. And I live outside of the
Mm,
DC metro area, and we did not have a winter, which nobody's complaining about that at all. It's just very unusual because we probably had 4 to 5 days in the month of February where it was between, in like the mid 60s. And that's unheard of. And
wow.
but you know what? I joke like eventually nobody's going to need to move to Florida because I'm going to have, Florida weather and oceanfront property at some point. So, right.
On
Thank
even
you.
years and on years, it's going to be completely different. Like
Who
the
knows?
climate
Who
is
knows?
so odd. In California, where I'm based now, there's all of this snow coming,
Yeah. Well,
like
people,
record snowfalls.
and I don't talk politics or religion on this, but people, I believe there is some truth to global warming. What people are failing to recognize, and they're not putting enough emphasis on, is that if you look at the history of the planet, it naturally evolves and goes through different weather patterns. And nobody talks about that. It's like,
Mhm.
go to the Smithsonian. I live outside of DC. You go to the Smithsonian, there's a map of what the earth looked like a million years ago, and it looked totally different
Yeah,
than it is
totally.
today. And like the earth is shifting and changing. And I think we are doing some damage. There's no doubt about how can we not with 8 billion people on the planet. And of course we're going to do damage. It's just, I think that part of it is also just the natural shift of the planet and its evolution. So anyhow,
Amen. And
enough
welcome to
about
the
that.
Climate Change Podcast.
Yes, exactly. No, we're going to talk about happiness. So we started chatting before I hit record, and I'm like, no, let's wait, let's
Mhm.
talk about this. So, first of all,
Yeah.
how are you able to travel so much? Because that is such a luxury that most people do not get to
Mhm.
enjoy. Like you're just traveling all over the place, and it's
I'm doing
awesome.
a lot of traveling. Yeah. So I used to do software development. That's what I
Okay.
have a degree in. So I did lots of that and I was good at it. And I had to realize, is this what I want to contribute to the world? And there's an aspect of it that I really enjoyed, like creating things, putting things together. The software development aspect was fun sometimes. And then I had to look at what is my purpose. And while I know that people can have a great purpose doing software development, I was never part of a project which really connected to my heart.
Yeah.
And I loved working with people. I love talking to people. So I pivoted to kind of go back and forth. So I went to software and I went to sociology, psychology. I have a psychology degree now, always back and forth and back and forth. And now I've been on the fourth part, which is really diving into um, wanting to help people with loneliness, wanting to help people connect with each other. And how I'm able to do this now is thank you for the money that I made from software development. That um, now, to be honest, this is what we were just talking about, like the way you're supposed to do it and the way you're not supposed to do it. And how you're not supposed to do it is using your retirement fund to pay for your living. And that's what I'm doing right now.
Hey, you can't take it with
But
you.
that's true. But I look at it, it's like, I feel so passionate about having people like you, happiness. Part of happiness is having good, strong connections, strong, good communication.
Yes.
And if I went back and I could doing software development, that's me basically saying that I admit failure. Like I'm never going to be successful enough in making this change like I see. And I don't believe that. It's just a matter of time. As one
That's
of my
right.
coaches, Christian Michael, says, success is inevitable. Success
Absolutely.
is inevitable. And that's what I believe.
And here's the thing, and this is, it's been a similar journey for me in that I have to do what is in the best for me and what's in alignment with my vibrational frequency. And, we started talking because you were like talking about finding your niche and everything as a coach. And, I left the coaching world for a few years out of necessity because my ex-husband hit a motorcycle and killed 2 people and went to prison. And I had a 13-year-old little boy that I had to care for. And so I had to go back to corporate America. I had to have the benefits and health insurance and all of those things. And it's totally okay. That was just part of my journey. We all have a journey that we're on, and that was part of mine. And so, while I chose a field where I'm still coaching people, so I never really left coaching. I've always been coaching people. So I come back, I publish my book, I start the podcast. I'm a happiness coach. And it's too broad. And people are like, you have to find your niche. You have to find your niche. And what you said before, you thought, well, let the niche find me. And like people say that's the wrong way to do it. And I was like, I disagree, because my niche found me. And I'm a high performer, and I'm also an elite athlete, and I've been an elite athlete for 50 years. I've also owned multiple businesses, and I have a business degree, and I've got, I've done a lot. And that's part of who I show up energetically. I'm the type of person that does a lot of things. I can be very successful at a lot of different things. So, I'm a retired U.S. national and international figure skating coach. I have a gold medal in ice dancing. And about 2 years ago, a friend of mine who's a coach said, we really need you at the rink. We need a mindset coach. I'm like, okay, like never really thought about working with athletes as as their mindset coach. And here's why, because I had a limiting belief that that's for sports psychologists. No,
right.
You don't need a degree in psychology to work with athletes. If an athlete is having mental health issues, they're going to go see a psychologist that specializes in mental health issues. Athletes, they need a mindset coach. So I was able to get rid of that limiting belief. And that's, part of what I focus on now is high performers, mostly elite athletes. Right now, all of my clients are elite athletes. And it found me. I wasn't looking for it.
It found you.
It found me.
Right. You just were following your path, what resonated with you, is, as you say, what aligns with your energetic signature.
That's right.
And that puts you in the place where the magic happened.
That's right.
Yeah.
And so just keep doing what you're doing, and it's going to find you. Like one day you're going to be like, it's like, somebody's going to flip. It's like the flip is going to be switched, and you're going to be like, oh my gosh, that's what it is. Right.
And I see it already happening. Good. And because I talk with people, I do coaching right now. And I have people saying, you are the best coach that I've ever had. It's just a matter of ramping that up and continuing to follow what my passion is, just like you said. Yeah. And what's been a real help for me. Yeah, go ahead, Sandee.
I was just going to say, the only time when your niche matters is if you're buying Facebook ads or, because you want to like narrow in, okay, what's my niche? Who's my target audience? That's what I'm targeting.
Right. It's for people, like if you had a one sheet on there, it really needs to be precise because they don't know me.
That's right.
So I would rather have people know me, because I'm a person that people love or people don't like. It's like one or the other.
Way.
And we're all that way. No, we're not.
No, I mean, I'm the type of person, like, women either look at me and they're like, I love you, or they look at me and they're like, I hate you, before I even say one word. And it's been like that my entire life. And now I'm like, you know what other people think of me isn't my business. I don't care. If you want to pass judgment on me before you even hear me open my mouth, then that's your problem, not mine. Right?
Yeah. I mean, and that, I think that type of that personality is the one that I think does not need to niche down so much, because our niche are the people that resonate with us. That's right. Our niche. You can't put that on a one sheet paper, but you can put it in front of people coming from stage and saying, hello, everyone. I'm Shawn Lauzon. Here's about me. And some people are going to be yes, and some people are going to be no. And that's beautiful.
Exactly. I was on stage a few weeks ago in DC, and most of the people were looking at me and they're like shaking their head, and you could tell they were really, and then you had a couple that are just sitting there like this.
Right.
And you know what I do? I started talking right to that person, started looking that person in the eye, and all of a sudden she just started to,
Okay.
okay.
Oh, beautiful. Beautiful.
All right, loneliness. I think
Hmm.
we all have suffered at one point or another in life. We're human. I think it's part of the emotions of it, the different types of emotions that we all experience. And loneliness is certainly one of them. And I would love to really dive into that because I don't think I've really had an episode, and I'm coming up on tomorrow. I think episode 194 is going to be released. I don't know that
Wow.
I've had a topic really focusing on loneliness. So I really want to dive into that because it's sad. That's the last thing, as a coach, and somebody that's always of service to others, like the last thing you want is to know that there's people out there experiencing loneliness.
Mhm.
Yeah,
It's ever since the pandemic, and
right.
it's been bad since then. I think we can look back in the pandemic, we can look at social media, we can look at the disintegration of the conservative traditional family. Um, we've had this loneliness epidemic that's been getting worse, and there's lots of lots of reasons. There's lots of things we can talk about. The thing that comes in right now is us being in the States. We have this belief that we're super independent, which is beautiful, which gives us a lot of the success that we have in this nation. But at the same time, it can tend to separate us from other people because I can do this myself. I can pull myself out from the bootstraps. And we sometimes forget that maybe I can be successful and I can have the dream house, the yacht, the whatever, and I
Right.
can still feel lonely. I can still
That's right.
feel sad. And one of the like what really hmm, it's like it's a thing that's deep to my heart. I was raised and didn't have friends. Like I didn't think I deserved to have friends actually. So the feeling of being by myself, I can remember it. I can remember it and feel it in my body. And I don't want people to go through that. And what I'm realizing is so much of this is about how do we communicate? How do we talk to each other? We're so busy protecting ourselves, building up walls to protect ourselves, which also prevents us from really having the connection that we deserve to have with people, whether that be the person that's you buy your bread from, or maybe even your spouse, your partner. Especially these things, right? The risk of alienation with our loved ones is so high that we can tend to get in this sort of protective state. Oh, I don't want to say anything that will offend them.
Mm.
This, I'm walking on eggshells. All of these things. And what I'm really loving, I do a practice, I've been doing this for 6 years, called authentic relating, and a
Mm.
practice of how do we connect with each other in a way that really builds bridges rather than builds walls. And
Interesting.
it's authenticity and vulnerability. Like Brene Brown talks about this all the time, and she's so right. Authenticity and vulnerability. I'm sure you've had people on here talking about these two things, authenticity and vulnerability. And when I'm authentic and vulnerable with you, you're more likely to connect with me
Absolutely.
and we can feel good. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. I mean, when people close down and they're not willing to really share their authenticity, a couple of things happen. One, most likely they're feeling a lot of shame, and
Mm-hmm.
that's maybe the driving emotion underneath of it as to why they're not telling the other person. But the really big thing, and this isn't for everybody, and if it's not for you and you're listening, if it's not for you, that's totally okay. Nobody's making anybody wrong here. It's just, you just never know who you're going to impact and who you can help by being authentic and being vulnerable. Just like with you, when I shared, about my ex-husband, your eyes just lit up and you're like, I don't remember who I tell and who I don't. I mean, it's just part of my story, and it happened and you just move on. I mean, it was a long time ago. It's been, what was it, 2013. So it's 10 years. This October, it'll be 10 years, you know, and he served his prison time. And I share that. And this was the driving force behind my podcast, is that people learn through sharing, through stories, right? Thousands of years ago,
Yes.
that's how people learned. It was all storytelling. And we learn by hearing other people's stories. And I started this podcast because I want people to understand and know that no matter what you've gone through, you can find happiness. You can choose happiness. And what people aren't always getting is that, you know, I say, you know, choose happiness and the choice is yours, because it's totally up to you whether or not you're going to choose happiness. You know, nothing can make you happy. You have to choose it. So sharing your story and being authentic, you never know who you're going to help, you know, and you can really change lives through your story.
I love that. I love this choosing happiness.
Yeah.
And what we think sometimes is that I need to choose happiness. So I'm choosing happiness, which means I better show that I'm happy with you all the time.
No.
And of course, you know that that's not what happiness is. Happiness isn't.
That's right.
Everything is great.
Yay. I'm really good at that, putting a smile on my face and just pretending, because that's how I was raised. Just smile and everything will be okay. No, the happiest people on the planet.
Is that how it was?
Yeah.
Is that how?
Yeah, because my brother died when I was 12 years old. I was going on 13. And that's the weird thing, is that my brother died at that pivotal point in my life, and my son's was 13, had just turned 13 when his father had the accident. So we both experienced very traumatic tragedies at a very young age. But that was kind of, at that time, it was 1978 when he died. Nobody went to therapy. So it was just like, just smile, just put a smile on your face and everything will be okay. And so that's kind of, I mean, they didn't know. You don't know what you don't know. And, you know, I don't blame my mom or my dad. And it's just, they didn't know. They didn't know how to deal with it. Nobody, you're not given a handbook on raising children, let alone how do you know, what happens when you lose a child and you have other children to, I mean, you know, my God, you know, you just do the best you can.
And what society says you're supposed to do. And that's what it was then, right?
Yeah.
Like, just shove, what I like to think about is like shoveling it under the mat, shoveling under the mat. Someone is angry at me. I don't want to be angry at them. So I'm just going to let it go, but I'm not letting it go. I'm shoveling under the mat. And this mat is getting bigger and bigger.
Oh, yeah. Well, because, you know, you have to deal with all of these emotions, and pain is pain, and anger is anger. It comes in all shapes and sizes. And it, you know, if you're experiencing something for the very first time, no matter how, you know, you can't say this pain is bigger than that pain, or that pain isn't as bad as this pain, because if you're experiencing it for the very first time in your life, it's bigger than life, you know? And it's still pain. It's still pain to you. And loneliness. Let's get back to loneliness, because I remember that very, very much, because after my brother passed away, it was a very, very lonely time for me, because not only was I told to smile and it'll be okay, I remember going back to school and nobody said a word. It was just if it didn't happen. Like nowadays, you'd come back to school and the counselors would be pulling you aside and, do you need to talk? And we're here for you. I had none of that. So it was a very lonely experience, you know? So for you, what are a couple of tricks or little golden nuggets that you can share with the audience, that if somebody is feeling lonely, what would you say to people, and how to help you make that shift to try to dissipate some of the loneliness? I mean, it may not go away overnight, right? But
the first thing I would say is just reaching out to talk to people. Let's say you have someone in your life. I hope that I'd say most people have someone in their life that they can talk with and be a little vulnerable. And that may be little steps. So perhaps you have a a family member or a friend, and maybe you're not used to expressing, here's what's going on, or it might say, here's what's alive for me right now. So try this. Choose a person that you feel, when you think about them, you feel, oh, I really like this person. And maybe you don't have the intimate relationship, but you really like them. So call them or text them. But I would really think, rather than texting people, calling, at the very minimum, a voice call, a video call, even better, because you get more information. And say, hey, I'm just feeling a lot with me right now. There's a lot going on right now. And I would love, maybe now or later, to spend 10 or 15 minutes. And I'd love to just share that with you. Are you open to that? So what you're doing there is saying your why. And it's not, ooh, I got to dump everything on you, but setting up a time in the future. And that gives them the choice of saying yes or no. And they're probably going to say yes. Maybe not right now. They might say, hey, I've got time for another 3 days, but everyone wants to connect. Everyone wants to be a support of people. So just saying, here's my why, and setting up that. And then at that point saying, here's what's going on right now. You can start with, I recommend, if you're not used to sharing your emotions, start with connecting to the body, like taking a breath. And like, how does it feel right now in my body? Start with really feelings like, man, I feel tightness in my stomach. I feel contraction in my heart. And step into that feeling and just express how it is to be you right now. Maybe that's, I just don't feel like I have people to talk with. I feel sad. I feel whatever. And if it's a guy, I recommend pre-framing this with, and I don't need a solution. Really, everyone likes to solve problems, but more for guys. Guys love to solve problems. We love to solve problems. It's the best thing. Oh, I can solve this. But you don't want anything solved. You just want to express. And pre-frame that. Pre-frame meaning say this in beforehand. Right. And try that. Does that seem like something that everyone can do?
I think it does. I think it really is, for sure. And then if I could just add, I was thinking there's so many Facebook groups
and there's
that you can join. And there's a whole community there. And there's places that offer a safe space. Lots of communities on Facebook with safe spaces. And you could easily reach out and just be like, hey, kind of going through something. Anybody open for a call? And I guarantee you'd have so many people be like, I'm here for you. I'm here for you. I'm here for you. Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
So what would you say to somebody who's afraid of taking that leap? Because some people, I'm going to use my mom as an example. She lives by herself. My father passed away in 2016, and he was the go-getter. He was the one that dragged her around everywhere. He was always busy. They always making plans. And now it's just her. And she won't make the effort to meet anybody in her apartment building. And she's lonely. And I don't even know. I mean, I'm a coach. I don't know what to tell her. I'm like, well, I give her ideas. I'm like, they have a happy hour every Friday at 6:00. Just walk down and grab a glass of wine and start talking to someone. But see, that's easy for me, right? I'm an introvert, but I can walk into a room and start a conversation with anyone. My mom's not like that. So what do you recommend to somebody that, words of wisdom or anything that can help push people along if they're that much of an introvert that I can't reach out to anybody. What do I do? It's so uncomfortable.
Yeah. It can be uncomfortable. It can be uncomfortable. I would say so it looks like there's really two ways of looking at it. It could be, how can I influence someone else? Or how can a listener be influenced by listening to this right now? In this situation with your mom, if I were you, I would really get clear for her to talk to your mom on what's your why? Like, really, what is going on? It's not, I feel lonely. Okay, here's what you should do about it. I feel lonely. Okay, let's talk about that more. How is it right now? And she has the solution. She may not have the idea specific things, but if you're there as like a person that's just there, not to fix things, but just to understand her world, embracing her loneliness in the present moment. And then
Mm,
from there, I suspect something will happen.
I
From
love that.
there, more of the openness of, well, here is, you could go to the cocktail mixer, and has some reasons not to. Like, okay, let's dive more into what those reasons are. Like, you feel scared, you feel like you won't be able to do it, and just allowing her the space to feel honored and understood. And
I
that's going to
love
make her
that.
not feel, that's going to feel her less lonely. So that's part one. And then part two of someone that's just listening right now would be the same thing. Like, okay, how do I get started? Really checking in with myself and what am I afraid of? Like,
Mm,
okay, I've got a friend, I've got someone, an acquaintance. Let's say there's no one. Let's say someone's on the call and there's no one except a colleague. Okay, what would happen if this one colleague that I got to, that I would like to have a communication with, I would like to start being connected to, what am I afraid of? And there's valid fears. So I would recommend writing those down just for yourself, getting this stuff out there. If you can't talk to anyone, talk to yourself. You can talk with, and the Facebook groups that you're talking about too are great. Although danger about Facebook groups sometimes.
yes, I know.
Writing it down is great. The comments sometimes can be horrible. But
Yes.
yeah, just right, expressing it. And there are always beautiful souls. And any fear that you have is totally okay.
Yeah.
You're not doing anything wrong if you think you have reasons that you can't do that. Totally accept those, allow those, talk to someone. I'm going to put in my email address. You can reach out to me. I'm going to be doing some authentic relating online classes. I haven't set this up, but it's been the thing that I have really gotten me how I can communicate better. And it's authenticity and vulnerability, and one step at a time.
I love
And
it.
people are beautiful, wanting to love each other. And we all need more connection here. We all
Oh,
need more connection. And we're all able to connect. We're
yes.
all our own healers. We are all healers. And especially
Yes.
for something like loneliness.
Yes. Oh my gosh, I love it. That is so well said, Shawn. Thank you so much. I will make sure your
Mm.
information is in the show notes. Is there anything else that you'd like to share with the audience before we finish up?
Mm. Just to reemphasize that this where you are right now is beautiful. Like, whether that's having lots of friends or feeling really lonely right now, just where you are right now and feeling that. And then from that acceptance of your own place, you can start to connect with other people, and you can do it.
I love
And
it.
we're here to help.
Love it. Love it. Love it. Shawn, thank you so much for joining me today. I'm
Yeah.
glad and you know what? You rescheduled a couple times and I'm always like, you know what? Whenever we talk is going to be perfect.
Yeah.
It's all good. And I knew that we were going to have the best conversation ever. So it's all good.
Me too.
Thank
Yeah.
you so much.
Thank you so much, Sandee. Have a beautiful day.
You too.